while preparing for resistance. These are some things, some basic do's and don'ts to keep in mind when you are feeling angry. 1. Do speak up when an issue is important to you. Obviously, we do not have to address personally every injustice and irritation that comes along. To simply let something go can be an act of maturity, but it is a mistake to stay silent if the cost is to feel bitter, resentful, or unhappy. We de-self ourselves when we fail to take a stand on issues that matter to us. 2. Don't strike while the iron is hot. Don't strike while the iron is hot. A good fight will clean the air in some relationships, but if your goal is to change an entrenched pattern, the worst time to speak up may be when you are feeling angry or intense. If your fires start rising in the middle of a conversation, you can always say, I need a little time to sort my thoughts out. Let's set up another time to talk about it more. Seeking temporary distance is not the same as a cold withdrawal or an emotional cutoff. 3. Do take time out to think about the problem and to clarify your position. Before you speak out, ask yourself the following questions. What is it about the situation that makes me angry? What is the real issue here? Where do I stand? What do I want to accomplish? Who is responsible for what? What specifically do I want to change? What are the things I will and will not do? 4. Don't use below the belt tactics. These include blaming, interpreting, diagnosing, labeling, analyzing, preaching, moralizing, ordering, warning, interrogating, ridiculing, and lecturing. Do not put the other person down. 5. Do speak in I language. Learn to say I think, I feel, I fear, I want. A true I statement says something about the self without criticizing or blaming the other person, and without holding the other person responsible for our feelings or reactions. Watch out for disguised you statements or pseudo I statements, like, I think you are controlling and self-centered. Number 6, do not make vague requests. I want you to be more sensitive to my needs. Let the other person know specifically what you want. The best way that you can help me now is to simply listen. I really don't want advice at this time. Do not expect people to anticipate your needs or do things that you have not requested. Even those who love you cannot read your mind. 7, do try to appreciate the fact that people are different. We move away from fused relationships when we recognize that there are as many ways of seeing the world as there are people in it. If you're fighting about who has the truth, you may be missing the point. Different perspectives and ways of reacting do not necessarily mean that one person is right and the other wrong. 8, do not participate in intellectual arguments that go nowhere. Don't spin your wheels trying to convince others of the rightness of your position. If the other person is not hearing you, simply say, well, it may sound crazy to you, but this is how I feel. Or, I understand that you disagree, but I guess we see it differently. Number 9. Do recognize that each person is responsible for his or her own behavior. Don't blame your dad's new wife because she won't let him be close to you. If you are angry about the distance between you and your dad, it is your responsibility to find a new way to approach the situation. Your dad's behavior is his responsibility, not his wife's. Number 10. Do not tell another person what she or he thinks or feels or should think or feel. If another person gets angry in reaction to a change that you make, don't criticize their feelings or tell them they have no right to be angry. It is better to say, I understand that you're angry. And if I were in your shoes, perhaps I'd be angry too. But I've thought it over and this is my decision. Remember that one person's right to be angry does not mean that the other person is to blame. Number 11. Do try to avoid speaking through a third party. If you are angry with your brother's behavior, don't say, I think my daughter felt terrible when you didn't find the time to come to her school play. Instead, try, I was upset when you didn't come. You're important to me, and I really wanted you to be there. Number 12. Do not expect change to come about from hit and run confrontations. Change occurs slowly in close relationships. If you make even a small change, you will be tested many times to see if you really mean it. Don't get discouraged if you fall on your face several times as you try to put theory into practice. You may find that you start out fine, but then blow it when things heat up. Getting derailed is just part of the process, so be patient with yourself. You will have many opportunities to get back on track and to try again. Of course, most important of all is our ability to take responsibility for our own part in maintaining the very patterns that evoke our anger. Triangles are the most complex relationship pattern to get a handle on. So let's move on to review this subject. No more gossiping. If you are angry at Sue, is she the first or the last person to know about it? If you are irritated by your father's behavior, do you deal with him directly or do you go tell your mother? Do you pick up your phone to call your daughter if you are angry with your ex-husband or your son? If you are angry that your coworker is not doing her job, do you tell her directly or do you talk to her supervisor behind her back in order to express your concern about her work? When two people gossip, they are having a relationship at the expense of a third party. That's a variation of the triangle. Because triangles lower anxiety, they are not necessarily problematic when they are transient and flexible. When a triangle becomes rigidly entrenched in a family, friendship, or work situation, such that it interferes with healthy person-to-person relationships, then the connecting legs must be broken. Triangles at work. Suppose, for example, that you are angry at Sue at the office because she takes extra long coffee breaks, and as a result, additional work falls into your lap. You try to talk to Sue about it, but her first response is to get angry and defensive. You then stop Sally in the hallway and invite Sally to agree with you that Sue is selfish and unfair. If Sally listens sympathetically, your anxiety diminishes. Perhaps this helps you to calm down and think more clearly about how to go back to Sue and manage your relationship with her. This would be an example of a transient triangle with no particular cost to anybody. On the other hand, suppose that you and Sally continue to talk about Sue behind her back. This deflects you from dealing directly with Sue to work out the problem. You will feel closer to Sally because of Sue's outside position, and in this way you deter your anger rather than deal with it. If the triangle continues to persist over time, Any one of the following is likely to occur. Sally's relationship with Sue will be influenced by the unresolved issues between you and Sue. For example, Sally may become more distant from Sue or may reactive to her. If Sally begins to like Sue, Sally, may feel disloyal to you. Sue's anxiety, another option. Sue's anxiety will rise and she may begin to underfunction more at work. The more the two people talk about an underfunctioning individual, rather than each working directly on that relationship, the more that party will have to work even harder to gain competence. You will have increasing difficulty calmly